All right, guys, welcome back. Thank you for joining us for the third and final video on the Topcon SmoothRide system. Again, just with me today, I've got Tyler with GSC Surveying and Levi with Benchmark Field Services. This last video is going to dive into, once you get that data, getting it into the paving and milling machine, and then we're going to do a high overview of the SmoothRide system from start to finish, and then kind of as a reminder, let you guys know all the bits and pieces of equipment that are needed when you guys do look at buying this system. So Levi, I know this is mostly going to be more in your ballpark. Tyler, I promise we'll get back to you. So Levi, once we've done our road scan, right? We sat down with Tyler in the surveying piece. We've got the scan done. We sat down with you in the office. We've got our model built and we've got our road built. Now we need to go back out to the job site and we need to start working. So what is the first step? How do we get diving into that?
All right, so kind of start everything out, I'm going to talk about all the components that go on these paving and milling machines. I think I'll kind of help the flow of the video a little bit. So on the paver, we're actually going to use what the existing Topcon already has on the paver. If you're already running a paving system or a milling system, may not always be the case. If not, they can put all that on there too. But the main components that make up this system is the Topcon MCR3. It's kind of the brains of the operation. It's got the GPS, the valve driver board, stuff like that in there. And then we've got the display that goes on the back of the mill or the paver. That way the operators can see it and know what to do. And then we've got our GPS antenna mounted onto the screed or the side of the milling machine so we can actually get that horizontal location of where we're at. And then this system is unique because Topcon's actually using a GPS system for a horizontal location and a sonic tracker for our depth. So it's actually sitting there measuring the distance from the existing surface and where we need to be at to get our variable depth. Very similar to the old SAS system that Topcon has, just a little different. So instead of having 4 sensors, we've got 1 sonic sensor. Okay. So that kind of gets everything going on what you got on the machine. They're both the same, whether it's a paving or a mill. You can actually change them back and forth. So if you're on those jobs like we talked about earlier where you're milling and paving, you could take the same components off and put it on your paver. Makes it very cost effective to outfit your fleet. Okay. So once we get that Topcon project file that we was talking about in the last video, it's as simple as just loading it into the machine control. So we'll do all that on the display, just get it all set up. One thing that the SmoothRide does, it actually takes into account compaction. So we can get that compaction number from the plant. We know how much it's going to compact down. I'll put that in there, and that way the paving system actually knows, hey, you've designed it to be 4 inches here, but the mill is telling me that it's going to roll down 1/4 inch, so I need to put a 4 1/4 in. Okay. It takes all that into account for us, which makes it very easy for us. And then from there, everything's automatic. So we're just going to flip on the autos on the machine and take off. I mean, we still got to have a guy there paying attention. You're still going to have your normal paving crew there, the guys taking care of all their operations, checking behind it, checking depth, stuff like that, to make sure that, we're not getting off or anything like that. But other than that, it's a pretty simple process.
So it's going to be a lot like the other Topcon machine controls where you've still got an operator, you've still got to watch what you're doing, but you've got a system letting you know if you're following within parameters.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not having any human error in there. I'm using actual machine control, so it knows exactly what it needs to be, where it needs to be. So, if we're paving without GPS technology, we're actually running the screws on the back. I've got 2 guys on each side working it up and down. If you got an unexperienced guy or a guy that's just learning paving, he may adjust too much. And this system actually already knows that. It's a trained operator at that point. So when it flips on autos, if it needs to be 4 inches, it's going to be 4 inches, which is the nice thing about it. And compared to paving conventional, I don't have to have somebody out with a roller or a wheel going through there paying out my station numbers or anything like that. So I don't need to know where I'm coming into changes and stuff.
When you talk about sort of when you're paving, right, sometimes you've got mountains and valleys in the roads. How can SmoothRide kind of help?
So with that SmoothRide system, we've already, with the scan, we've already picked up those highs and lows across that road. We've smoothed it out in the design software. So now a lot of times if you just go through there and put 4 inches down, when we roll it down, we're going to roll that same valley back in because we don't know the compaction number. So by having that compaction built into the system, when we go across there, it puts 4 1/2 inches down. Now when my roller gets on there, it rolls it down smooth. I'm still at my 4 inches, but I've compacted that extra 1/4 inch.
And that's where you talked about human error, right? Now, 1/4 inch extra paving, a guy's not going to be able to pick up with his eye. But the machine already knows at this particular spot, I'm going to lay down a little bit extra.
Yeah, because it's using the GPS location and the model that we built and that sonic sensor. So we've got 3 things going on there that kind of ties everything back into play. So.
And all that, the automated machine, the system built, that all ties back into that rideability number to help you hit that number.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to set it up where that contractor is going to hit his rideability number the easiest way as possible.
So can you dive into a little bit about variable depth in SAS?
Yeah, so the SAS is, Topcon's basically just a depth system. So we set it down on blocks. We say we're going to put 3 inches down. So if I go across that road and I do have one of those low spots, it's still going to put 3 inches down, but it may still have a little bit of that valley in it. It tries to take that out, but not at the same level that RDM1 is going to take it out.
Gotcha.
So that's where the kind of the big difference is. We're still using the same hardware, same concept. We've just kind of smoothed it out a lot more. So.
Now we talked about sort of the smart components on the paver or the miller machine. I think you and I talked about too about having something on the roller where it can do roll passes and making sure you don't over roll or under roll.
Yeah, I mean, Topcon's got some intelligent compaction stuff. So it'll actually measure the temperature that you're on and off the asphalt. You can set it up for pass count so you know how many times you've been on that. Kind of makes it an overall package. I mean, you want a big, complete workflow. I mean, it's only as good. We can put asphalt down perfect all day long, but if my roller makes too many passes over it or on a different temperature or anything like that, it's going to mess up that final end result. So Topcon tries to set it up where give the contractor as many tools as possible to hit what they need to.
So, I mean, I think at this point, I really want to give everybody kind of tuning in a real high level start to finish because we've been through a lot the past couple of videos. So we'll start with, initial setup again. Tyler, will you just run us through setting up the RDM1 road scanner and then what it actually takes to survey?
First day out there, you're going to end up measuring your truck, figuring out where that scanner sits on the truck itself. And then we'll go out to a project. We'll start our base station on a point that we can come back to whenever we're actually paving or milling. And we'll start the scan, just hitting the green play button, and it'll start collecting data from the road surface. And we'll make a couple passes, about 3 passes in each lane, and we're able to bring that data back into the office, download it to the laptop and bring it back to the office to actually process it, combine it with that base information, and then build us an actual surface to bring in the magnet office.
Yeah, and you guys at GSC use this, and you've seen tremendous success from this, not only in time savings, but keeping the roads open as well.
Yeah, and safety. Safety is a huge one. Whenever you're working on the side of a highway or road, the more you can get away from it and in something that's going to protect you, it's just a better experience for everybody.
Yeah, and you don't need special equipment, right? You're not using road blocking truck. You're using a standard Chevy or Ford truck, right?
Yep, yeah, just standard pickup, and I mean, you could use an SUV or a car if you wanted to as well. You just have to have a hitch mount that we can work with, or we'll just manufacture one that'll fit it.
Sure. And then what else are you guys using as far as using base stations as well?
Yeah, so I mean, we're using a GR5. I mean, it doesn't really matter too much on which GPS unit. As long as you're getting GPS and GLONASS satellites, it should pick it up. We've had some situations where our base just did not work that day, or we didn't have an extra one, and we ended up using a RINEX file from the state. So one of the Corps network's actual locations.
Could you use the Corps network and a base station kind of for that redundancy? Would that work?
You could. The only thing I don't like about a Corps station is it's a little bit more difficult to use the same one every time. Okay. I just trust my own system a lot more anyway. That and most Corps systems are 1 hertz, so 1 times per second update, or maybe if you're lucky 2 times per second. I can do up to 10 hertz on some of our regular GPS receivers, so I get a lot more information and it's a lot more precise.
Sure. Okay. And then sort of the last step in that scan process, right, to make sure before you go back to the office on processing, once that scan is done, you can sit there in the cab of your truck and make sure that you've got clean data start to finish. And if you have any problem spots, you can fix that, right?
Yeah. I'll usually look through the map that's created as you're driving, just to make sure there isn't any areas where I might have forgotten a pass or something like that. The pass counter has saved me so many times. I'd just rather not talk about it, but
What, you don't want to go back out to the job
site? Yeah.
I mean, you can even go as far as pulling up magnet collage too, because you're already scanning on that laptop. So you can pull up magnet collage, and there's a piece that talks about the trajectory where you could actually look at that GPS signal and kind of see what you got going on before you head back to the office, because you don't want to go back without the data that you need.
Definitely. So yeah, I mean, the next step, right, once you're done, is you do head back into the office. That's where you start building. Levi, can you just go through real quick on magnet collage and then magnet office?
So you do that processing in magnet collage where you're tying everything down, as far as getting your scan squared away, creating that point cloud, generating a surface, and actually exporting that surface out. Then that's when Magnet Office comes into play, where you do all your design work using the tools that Topcon has in their software to generate basically a milling surface or a paving surface that then we would go put into our actual hardware in the field and automatic pave or automatic mill. So
Yeah, awesome. And then guys, the last step is just kind of what we talked about today, taking that surface that you created, that data, putting it into your paving and milling machine, and essentially hit and go and letting it kind of do its thing, making sure you've got guys there to monitor, make sure it's doing what it's supposed to, but really taking that human error element out of it and just going.
yeah, I mean, it's the same thing with grade control. I mean, on a dirt earthwork site, we're running automatics to put it on subgrade. So now if we're running automatics on our paver, and basically we're starting off on a good foot and we're ending on a good foot. It's kind of the way I see it.
Sure.
So I mean, using it on that whole job site process. And I know there's a lot of other software and stuff out there that, like the Topcon Intelligent Compaction, being able to monitor, temperature, stuff like that. So.
Yeah, and guys, so we're just going to kind of wrap this up. I mean, Levi, thank you so much. Tyler, definitely thank you guys for coming on. Here at Benchmark Tool and Supply, we are a Topcon authorized dealer, so everything we talked about today, the SmoothRide, the intelligent compaction, your machine control, guys, we can do that all for you. If you need us to come out and demo a piece of equipment for you, let us know. We're happy to do that. Reach out to us at benchmarksupply.com or give us a call at the number on your screen.